Assalamu alaikum, brothers and sisters. Welcome. It's David Hodge. All right, brothers and sisters. Time of intense darkness. Brothers and sisters, that's where we headed. And you need to be aware that attack of all blacks will result from this. Will result from the destruction of false Israel, which is guaranteed. Now, before they're destroyed, they'll be coming to attack us, brothers and sisters. Like I explained to you, we know the parties who's going to win this war. We know the outcome of this war. With Michael's and his angels versus the dragon and his angels. Michael being the God. Master Farad Muhammad. In Iran and Syria, his angels. And the dragon and his angels, which the dragon is the house of Saudi Arabia. And his angels being America, Britain, and false Israel. We know that Michael and his angels are victorious. So with that being said, this sets up the stage for false Israel to be isolated, which American Britain to be kicked out, House of Saud defeated in the isolation and siege of false Israel. And that sets up, when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, know that its destruction is near. And they can allow them to be destroyed. Because if they are destroyed, then now you find out that you are the true seed of Abraham. And they don't escape judgment. Because you are their judgment, which they're trying to eliminate. So this initiates that attack on us, brothers and sisters, because they can't allow that to happen first. Because if you rise up, that's the end of them. And that's the serious time we're at, brothers and sisters. We like I explained, we know the outcome. So the result of that is the attack on all blacks. And the point is for you to be aware, to be alert about this situation, because it's going to be terrible, brothers and sisters. It says our people are lost. My people are lost from the lack of knowledge. The lack of what knowledge? This knowledge right here, brothers and sisters. The knowledge of the time. The knowledge of the Injil. Not understanding that we're about to be attacked once the fake so-called God's people are set up for their destruction, which is false Israel, Satan. Those who call themselves Jews, but they're not. They're Satan. The ones who have synagogues. They're synagogue of Satan. Satan. The one who masquerades as angel of light, steal our identity, and that would come to an end. Which means that this whole reality comes to an end because the world is structured around that idea that they're true seed of Abraham. And once that they find out that they're not, everyone goes insane. This whole world is going to be in a world of shock, for a lot of reasons, and that being one of them. Because that's the ideology of their reality, which is going to be crushed and shattered. So everybody's going to be walking around totally insane, realizing that they're crazy as hell. That their reality that kept them stable is now no longer, it was false. So now they're not centered anymore. They're off balance. They're out of their minds. They're walking around as if they were drunk, but haven't had anything to drink. You see? Walking around as if they're totally out of their damn minds. So this is going to totally change our lives, change everyone's lives as you know it forever, brothers and sisters. So the point is to take heed, to uh, now make a decision on accepting your vision, which is second option. You have a second option now, brothers and sisters, which is to get out of here, which is to go home, to accept the Abraham covenant, which is in Genesis chapter 15, tells you that we was getting out of here, that we would go through all these things, and our enemies would be judged. And it came in right on time, 1619, 2019, 2020, the year of the plague. Said it passed over us, exactly what it did, and they knew that. That's when they knew that they were in trouble, you see. But they were already trying to eliminate us, but it backfired on them with COVID and everything else that they tried. And it's going to continue to backfire on them. Things are not going to be good for them. They're in the time of judgment. It said all things will fail. Everything they say and do, it said everything they say and they do, they'll inherit. So that's exactly what they're inheriting, destruction. You see. So this is nothing that it's not nothing that we can. It's not nothing you can escape from, brothers and sisters. This attack it's not nothing you can try to prevent or hope that it doesn't happen, because we know how it's going to work out. And this attack is going to happen because the point I just made about the world being structured around that idea that they're the true seed of Abraham, and they can't allow you to find out that you are. Because once you do, then that means that you are now awake. The one that they've been trying to prevent from getting up. Because if you get up, it was all hell to pay. This is a time of wrath, the wrath of God, vengeance, payback. Now you know that you are God's chosen people. You realize that God's with you. Then you realize your enemies and what they did to you. Now you know the truth. And it says do unto them as was done to you. Now that's the will of Allah. That's a command. Now you have to exercise that. And that's what they know, that you are their personification of judgment, which says that you will do it. You see? So that's what they're trying to eliminate you, to eliminate not only the evidence, but the person who's going to execute their judgment. You see? So, however, brothers and sisters, the time false Israel's destruction is closing in. It's not looking good for them, brothers and sisters. The ongoing conflict, they're taking heavy strikes. They're taking heavy injuries and damages. With Iran still launching missiles into Israel regularly. You see, multiple people being injured, damage in the central Israel. Damage in central Israel from impacts and debris. So, there's chaos all over the place, sirens going off in their areas. So, things are not safe for them day to day. Things are getting worse, you see. So, they're dealing with multiple fronts. It's a multiple front war that keeps growing. They can't get their hands around this. And they're getting hit. They don't have the protection they need. They're hitting homes and cities like Tel Aviv, which is very important to them. That right. Well, that's one of their most important areas. So they have to get that under control. You know what I'm saying? They have to get that under control. And they're not going to be able to get that under control. is the point, brothers and sisters. Like I explained, things are going to get worse, much worse for them. So these things are causing them tremendous deaths. Even when warnings exist, there's just not enough time, causing them to be affected by the toll of deaths. And this war is slowing Israel's economy growth. The projections of what they could do is slowing that down. The government, they had to get a budget. They had to get a huge defense budget. You see? Either way it go, brothers and sisters, this conflict has triggered the massive oil supply disruption, which is one of the biggest energy crises in history. So we're in a time of unprecedented. When things are unprecedented, these things are only going to get worse. You see? So Israel's in panic. They're living under constant alerts, constant attacks, not knowing when this thing is going to blow over or get better. Well, it's not, brothers and sisters. They've opened up their destruction. That time is over with, brothers and sisters. Now it's time for them to face the truth. The end for them. That's the guarantee. The end of Israel, false Israel. They have now set their deathbed.
Iranian missiles have slammed into central Israel, hitting dense urban zones and triggering fires across streets. Impacts were reported in Bnei Brak, Ramat Gan, and Petah Tikva. 8 people were injured as blasts spread across neighborhoods, with burning cars and shattered buildings. Iran now claims it is expanding the war beyond missiles, targeting industrial and communication hubs linked to Israel's war network. Tehran says drone strikes hit facilities tied to telecom and advanced systems, signaling a shift toward infrastructure and economic warfare alongside direct military strikes.
Iranian army drones targeted strategic industrial and communication centers linked to the Zionist regime in Ben Gurion and Haifa early this morning. The army stated it will continue responding to any aggression until threats against Iran end.
The escalation is now part of a declared long-term campaign. Iran's Revolutionary Guard says this is the 88th wave of Operation True Promise 4, aimed at eroding Israeli and U.S. military power. The messaging signals a sustained war strategy, not a one-off retaliation, with pressure building across multiple fronts. The conflict is rapidly expanding beyond Israel. Iranian-linked forces claim strikes on U.S. targets across the region, alongside coordinated attacks by groups in Lebanon, Iraq, and Yemen. Tehran says over 120 operations were carried out, pointing to a synchronized regional offensive stretching defenses on multiple fronts.
The brave men of the Air Force of the Islamic Republic of Iran, one batch of the American MQ-9 missiles in the region of Isfahan, and one batch of the Lucas missiles of the enemy, were used by the IRGC in the area of Kesh, Rajiri, and Monhadam. At the same time, with the operations of the Islamic Revolutionary Army, Hezbollah of Lebanon, and Ansarullah of Yemen in the past few hours against the northern and southern areas of the occupied territories and the Islamic resistance groups of Iraq, in the place of the establishment and disappearance of the U.S. commanders in the center and north of Iraq, they made significant damage to the U.S. enemies. The resistance groups in this step carried out 120 successful and effective operations.
Iran's military command has issued a direct warning to the US and Israel, vowing harsh retaliation and rejecting any control over the Strait of Hormuz. The rhetoric signals rising global stakes as the conflict deepens. With civilians under fire and regional forces mobilizing, this war is entering a far more dangerous phase.
Right. So as you can see, it's intense for Israel in America. There's no coming back from this, brothers and sisters. Like I explained, that's pretty much the time of peace is over with. It's the destruction of false Israel. That's what time we're in. In American Britain's involvement, things are going to go bad for here. Said millions and men's hearts will fail them from fear. Men's hearts failing them from fear and the expectation of those things which are coming on earth, coming here to America. For the powers of the heavens will be shaken. The defeat of House of Side, American Britain, and false Israel. Authority switch and power, which will be from the God in Syria with Iran. They're going to be victorious in this war, take over the Middle East, take over that oil, which America will no longer have access to, which is going to cause serious issues here in America. And said men's hearts will be failing them, literally having heart attacks from what you see happening over there coming here. Anything you can think of that's terrible that has ever happened in the world. Any world wars, any great depressions, any severe recessions, anything that you know, any Holocaust, any bombings and murders, and you know what I'm saying. Anything that you've seen in your lifetime that you think is terrible, things like that are coming here. They said men will have heart attacks, millions of them. The anticipation of what you see hasn't even happened, hasn't happened yet, but it's coming. They said they'll have heart attacks. So that's what we're here to reduce that shock for you, brothers and sisters, so you have a heads up, so you don't suffer from those heart attacks, because there's no way out for them. They're due judgment, but not you. You have a second option, which is the Abraham covenant, to get out of here, to go home, prepare yourself to get out of here, brothers and sisters. This judgment's not for you, but it's set for them. They set it up for themselves. It's their consequence. So you just want to make sure you get this message to help lessen the impact that it's going to have on you, brothers and sisters. But it's pretty much over for Israel in America. and things are just getting worse.
Or IRGC, has claimed major attacks on United States pilots and fighter jet crews in Saudi Arabia. IRGC's Brigadier General Sayed Mayeed Musavi claimed the Iranian military targeted the residences of 200 U.S. pilots and personnel at the Al-Kharj area in Saudi Arabia with missiles and drones. Musavi claimed that a U.S. AWACS aircraft was also destroyed, while several other American jets were damaged in the strikes. Iran has bombed U.S. bases across the Middle East in retaliation for the American and Israeli strikes, forcing American troops to relocate to hotels and office spaces throughout the region. According to a New York Times report, the IRGC has also urged
This is the simplest way to make a freezing bedroom survivable without electricity.
The IRGC Navy also claimed major attacks on naval vessels, military meetings, radar installations, and drone defense systems in the region. In the United Arab Emirates, a U.S. Marines meeting in a coastal area was targeted by drones while moving outside a military base. Near Bahrain's Manama Airport, a U.S. Fifth Fleet Hawk anti-drone system outside a military base was also reportedly destroyed by drones. In Kuwait, 2 early warning radar systems at the U.S. military base in Ahmed al-Jaber were also destroyed by Iranian drones. The IRGC has already warned that the offices of the 18 largest U.S. tech companies in the region would now be targeted. The attacks come as Donald Trump said the U.S. military would leave Iran in the next 2 to 3 weeks.
I think we're 2 or 3 weeks.
Not 3 weeks. If it is
We'll
3
leave
weeks,
because
then it
there's
would
no
be
reason for us to do this. Look, problem with the Strait, a guy can take a mine, drop it in the water, and say, oh, it's unsafe. It's not like you're taking out an army or you're taking out a country or they can drop it. Or you can take a machine gun from the shore and shoot a few bullets at a ship, or maybe an over-the-shoulder missile, small missiles. That's not for us. That'll be for France. That'll be for whoever's using the Strait. But I think when we leave, probably that's all cleared up. Today I heard tremendous numbers of ships were sailing through. We're negotiating with them right now. They've been, again, we have had regime change. Now, regime change was not one of the things I had as a goal. I had one goal. They will have no nuclear weapon. And that goal has been attained. They will not have nuclear weapons. But we're finishing the job. And I think within maybe 2 weeks, maybe a couple of days longer to do the job. But we want to knock out every single thing they have. Now, it's possible that we'll make a deal before that, because we'll hit bridges, and we've hit some. We'll hit some bridges. We've got a couple of nice bridges in mind. But if they come to the table, that'll be good. But it doesn't matter whether they come or not. We've set them back. It'll take 15 to 20 years for them to rebuild what we've done to them.
Look at Trump. Man, he got everything under control. He did something, thinking that he's brought this situation to a closer negotiation. Brothers and sisters, that's all talk. Sit there and hear what they say they do. He don't realize that everything he's saying he's doing is going to cost them in the long run. You see, he said all things will fail, brothers and sisters, backfire. So he's talking, like I said, talking tough, trying to make it seem like he got everything under control, and they'll be begging for this negotiation here soon. And if not, this is what we messed them all up, right? So that's telling you that they're not backing out of this. Iran and them are not backing out. You know what I'm saying? If this is what you're claiming you're doing, and you're supposed to be making negotiations, and they're in the time that they're not effing around. They're not pulling out. They're not they're not surrendering. They're not making any peace agreements. They're at the time where you didn't kill their loved ones, important people, and you know, you didn't kill people that it's no coming back from these things that y'all have done, and it only comes with the consequence of your defeat in the destruction of false Israel. So, like I explained, brothers and sisters, we know what's going on. It's important for you to know. That way you can see where you're headed, where you're going. It's dark time, you see. And this will be the only light this light we're reflecting. That will be the real light, the Injil. That's the only light for this time, brothers and sisters. During this time of intense darkness, that way you don't bump into things. You know where you're headed. You know where you're going. So we know the end result. America is going to be kicked out. You see, and that's when all the bad things that's coming here, that men's hearts have failed from the anticipation of it happening there. It hasn't happened. They see it over there. It's coming here. See, so we know what's going on, brothers and sisters.
Earlier, a Wall Street Journal report had claimed that Trump had told his aides about his plans to exit the Iran war, even without reopening the Strait of Hormuz. This comes at a time when Pentagon is preparing to send more U.S. troops for a possible ground invasion of Iran.
Just on the Strait of Hormuz, is opening the strait an essential objective to Operation Epic Fury, or is that the job of those other countries? And then secondly, without asking you to comment on things that you can't talk about, what is your message to Americans who love the president and strongly believe in him, but are very worried about this notion of boots on the ground?
Ultimately, I think the president's truth this morning lays that out very well, that this Strait of Hormuz issue, which we've set the conditions for success, and we will make sure Iran knows that very clearly, is not just a United States of America problem set. We've been willing to lead. President Trump's led the entire time, but it's not just us. So ultimately, I think other countries should pay attention when the president speaks. He's proven that when he speaks, he means something. And he's pointing out, you might want to start learning how to fight for yourself. It's something some of us have been saying for quite some time. You can't just have flags. You have to have formations. You can't just have a few ships. You have enough to affect change. Those things matter in a dangerous world with ascendant adversaries. As far as President Trump and boots on the ground, I don't understand why the base, which they have already, they understand, wouldn't have faith in his ability to execute on this. Look at his track record of pursuing peace through strength, America first outcomes. What he's simply saying, and it's exactly true, and I've said from this podium too, we're not going to foreclose any option. You can't fight and win a war if you tell your adversary what you are willing to do or what you are not willing to do, to include boots on the ground. Our adversary right now thinks there are 15 different ways we could come at them with boots on the ground. And guess what? There are. So if we needed to, we could execute those options on behalf of the President of the United States and this department. Or maybe we don't have to use them at all. Maybe negotiations work, or maybe there's a different approach. But the point is to be unpredictable in that. Certainly not let anybody know what you're willing to do or not do. But if anybody has internalized the lessons of Iraq and Afghanistan as the first one, President Trump, to call them out for what they are, he's not going to repeat those lessons. And I think I've been very clear about that from the podium.
On Tuesday, Trump had slammed the NATO allies, including United Kingdom and France, asking them to build up some courage and take the Strait of Hormuz.
America's desperate, brothers and sisters, needing help, needing people to pull into this thing to help them pull this off. They're hoping for all the power they can get, you see. And this place not going to work. They're trying to bring in NATO. We know what's going to happen with NATO. When this thing goes south and it goes bad, friends are turning to foes, brothers and sisters. They're going to lose NATO because NATO's not going to have any EU. They're not going to have any oil either. But we know Russia will. So they're going to partner with Russia. And America's going to be against Russia, right? So Right. They're going to partner with Russia, brothers and sisters, to save their own tails during this time of no oil, no food, total economic collapse that's coming here to America. And they need that oil. You need oil to run your societies. You need that to sustain yourself, to sustain your society and to get the proper things needed, to keep running a proper society. So once that happens, like I explained, friends are turning their foes. They'll turn their back on them. They're going to lose NATO. So, like I said, all things will fail. So your attempts, all your bribery or your threats or your propaganda, it said everything would fail. So America don't even realize, or if they do, they're not, like you say, I'm not telling you what I am or what I ain't doing. You see, their days are numbered, brothers and sisters. That's why you shouldn't invest in America. You invest in your vision. Invest in getting out of here. Invest in yourself. Invest in the NGO, which is your mind. You see, get rid of the devil's mind and pick up your mind. That's what you're going to need to be successful. Invest in your discipline. Invest in your survival. Because if you invest in America, everything that you invest, including yourself, is going to be destroyed. Because that's the outcome of America. On top of a dark time that's headed here with no hope and no nothing. So it's going to be a terrible time, you see, here. So it's best to invest in your vision, you see, and get the hell out of here. All right, let's take a look.
Let's get to Trey Yingst. He's live in Tel Aviv. What's the mood and the view from there?
Yeah, Bill, Dana, good morning. Overnight, the United States used 2,000-pound bunker buster bombs to target an Iranian ammunition depot. The president releasing some of the video on Truth Social showing significant damage and destruction outside the city of Isfahan. While President Trump is still offering Iran a chance at a diplomatic solution, the U.S. and Israel are ramping up pressure on the Islamic Republic.
The video the president posted last night of Isfahan, an ammo depot struck by U.S. bombers. You see, you don't get to see many of those videos because, as a reminder, Iran has still shut off the internet to 99.9% of its population.
Iran has continued its ballistic missile attacks against Israel with 2 waves targeting central Israel last night and another 2 cluster munition strikes this morning against Tel Aviv. The Iranians also struck a Kuwaiti oil tanker with a drone off the coast of Dubai early this morning. Officials say the fire caused by that attack is now under control. While Gulf countries and Israel repel Iranian attacks, Israel has expanded ground operations against Hezbollah in southern Lebanon. Dozens of militants were killed there in recent days, according to the IDF. And today, Israel's defense minister, Israel Katz, announced that Israel is building a buffer zone in southern Lebanon up to the Litani River.
All houses in the border-adjacent villages in Lebanon will be destroyed in accordance with the Rafah and Beit Hanun models in Gaza to remove the border-adjacent threats once and for all from the residents of the north.
The IDF announced that 4 additional Israeli soldiers were killed yesterday, bringing the total since the Lebanon operation began to 10. On Monday, a funeral was held for one of those soldiers, just 19 years old.
Enough already. Enough of these funerals. Enough of this pain of children who are living and lying here in the ground. What is the value of all these lives? What is the value of all life? Enough of the wars. Make peace already.
This week, the Israeli people will mark the Jewish holiday of Passover, some of them celebrating their Seders in bomb shelters. Bill, Dana?
Trey Yingst in Tel Aviv, thank you.
So Dan Hoffman, Fox News contributor, former CIA chief of station. Dan, good morning to you. Here is Caroline Levitt yesterday at the podium at the press conference at the White House.
Despite all of the public posturing you hear from the regime and false reporting, talks are continuing and going well. What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately. If the Iranians reject this golden opportunity, the greatest military in the history of the world continues to stand by to provide President Trump with every option available to ensure this regime continues to pay a grave price.
Dan, who do you think the United States can communicate with right now, actively and effectively in Iran? if anyone?
Well, I think we are communicating, as Secretary Hegseth said, with our military campaign. So that's for sure what we're doing. I just don't think we've quite reached the tipping point where we can induce Iran to enter into negotiations in good faith. Just in the last hour, Lucas Tomlinson reported on Iran striking the UAE with 8 ballistic missiles, 4 cruise missiles, and 36 drones. They attacked a Kuwaiti oil tanker off the coast of Dubai. So they still retain some capability in spite of the massive damage that we've inflicted on their defense industrial base. Iran is not publicly demanding an end to this war. There are...
Right. You heard the devil. It's not strong. And he doesn't know if they're gonna, if he can count on that negotiation right now, because it's not gonna happen. It's not, like I said, they're not backing down, brothers and sisters. Iran's not backing down, and he's not guaranteed. It's no guarantee that he can have strong faith that they will negotiate, and they're still. That's because he knows the truth. The truth is there is no negotiation. That's the point. There's no peace. There will be no peace being made, brothers and sisters. It's over with for America. It's over with for false Israel. It's over with for Britain and the House of Assad. That time's over with. It said power of heavens will be shaken. I mean, it's over with. You see, with the defeat of these parties, along with the destruction of false Israel, we're in a time of intense darkness. Things about to get real dark, brothers and sisters.
Some behind the scenes indirect negotiations, discussions in Pakistan, reportedly through the Iranian Speaker of Parliament, but I would not characterize those negotiations at this point as anything which would lead to an end to this war, at least diplomatically.
There was a report in the Wall Street Journal saying that Trump tells aides he's willing to end war without reopening Hormuz. Administration officials assess that forcing the waterway back open would mean extending the military mission. In addition, the president posting today, and Pete Hegseth talking about it during his briefing, that the president is telling other countries, like, we don't need this open as much as you do, so you should step in and help us. What are the chances of that?
So I think the president might have been seeking to gain some leverage over our allies and partners whom he hopes would join us in an effort to open the Strait of Hormuz. I think it's in the United States' interest that we do that. We don't want Iran to have a stranglehold on the global price of oil and gas. That would certainly impact the global economy and our economy as well. By extension, Iran would also be extorting the rest of the world and collecting tariff money that they could use to reconstitute their weapons of mass destruction. So I don't think that's how we see this war ending. But I do think the president wants to pressure our allies and partners to join us in an effort to open the strait.
Pete Hegseth said just an hour ago that in the last 24 hours, the fewest missiles have been launched from Iran that they have seen since the conflict began. So that stretches over a 30-day period. Dan, at times the Iranians have shown fairly good accuracy. What do you make of the Russian assistance that's been given on behalf of Moscow? And what can you say about North Korean ballistic missile technology aiding Iran as well right now?
Well, Iran's missile technology for sure came from North Korea. And Russian tactical intelligence has been really valuable to the Iranians. The Russians, remember, provided tactical assistance to the Taliban as well, so they could kill U.S. soldiers in Afghanistan. The Russians are able to give Iran satellite overhead reconnaissance and tactical intelligence. That's what the Russians do. It's their currency. They have a very close relationship with Iran. Remember that Iran built factories to produce drones in Russia. Now Russia's returning the favor by sending those drones to Iran. It's in Russia's interest that this war carry on as long as possible and that they degrade the U.S. Reputation in the region and beyond, as well as our military capability and our ability to project force. I think that's what we're seeing here from Russia and Iran. It's this what we see in the outgrowth of the war in Ukraine, where we've got this axis of dictatorships, Russia, Iran, North Korea, and China on one side, and the West and Ukraine on the other side.
Can I ask one last question then about the Houthis? because they had been relatively quiet until this past weekend when they decided to join the fight. What can happen there? Because that's another strait.
Right. The Bab el-Mandeb Strait, which controls the Red Sea and links to the Suez Canal, that could likewise have a significant impact on trade from the Middle East. And so that's also something that we need to be prepared for. I'm sure that that Secretary Hegseth and his team have a contingency plan to deal with that, along with our allies and partners. But you're right to highlight that. There's more potentially that Iran could do. And remember that Lebanese Hezbollah has also been taking the fight to Israel.
Dan, thank you. To be continued. Pete Hegseth was asked how much longer. He said 2 weeks, 4 weeks, 8 weeks, as pretty much as long as it takes. Dan, thanks. More to come on this, okay? Thank you.
Be sure to like and subscribe for all the Fox News latest on YouTube.
All right, brothers and sisters. Darkness. America is entering darkness. It says that the day that's coming, talking about President Trump, this day will bring darkness, not light. In that day you will be like a man who runs from a lion, only to meet a bear. Escaping from the bear, he leans his hand against a wall in his house, and he's bitten by a snake. So yes, the day of the Lord will be dark and hopeless, without a ray of joy or hope. When all this kicks off, brothers and sisters, it's going to be a complete famine here, a complete total economic collapse. No food, no water, no oil, no gas. Severe social unrest, people freezing to death in the dead of winter, having no energy for heating. And that's why we advise you to invest in your vision. Get the hell out of here, because it's about to go really bad. What's happening over there is coming here. Men will be having heart attacks, millions of them. And it's this time of darkness, it said it would be so much, no good news. Imagine never receiving good news at a time like this. It's complete chaos and destruction and terrible, horrible things coming. Every time they run up to ask what's going on next, what's happening next. It's always a reports of bad news constantly, constant bad news, constant. And, and this would be the time of that. It'd be like a domino effect of bad news rushing at America. And it's not going to be nice. It's going to be pretty ugly. You don't want to be involved, brothers and sisters. You don't want to be involved in this judgment. It's not for you. Your reward is going home, separating from your enemies, complete separation. Said you'd be a fool to stay here in the land of your imprisonment, to endure, to suffer along with your enemy is insane. You already suffered enough, brothers and sisters. Now it's time for you to be prepared. Get prepared to go home. You see? Let's get back.
Welcome to the NewsHour. The war with Iran has entered its second month, and President Trump says the onus is on Tehran to quickly agree to end the war or face the widespread destruction of its energy resources, including its power plants and its oil hubs. But Iran remains publicly defiant, calling U.S. demands unrealistic and continuing its attacks on Israel and the region. Nick Schifrin begins our coverage.
In northern Israel today, the country's largest oil refinery engulfed in smoke. Iran is trying to punish Israel and the region with attacks on energy facilities and a stranglehold on the Strait of Hormuz, which White House spokesperson Caroline Leavitt said today Iran was beginning to release.
20 additional tankers, which we expect to see over the coming days, are a result of the direct and indirect talks that are taking place between the United States and Iran.
President Trump told the Financial Times the Strait of Hormuz agreement was personally authorized by Iran's parliament speaker Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. He's long been a hardliner who this weekend warned he would, quote, set American troops on fire. But today, President Trump said Iran was led by a, quote, new and more reasonable regime. He also threatened to escalate, writing, if the Hormuz Strait is not immediately opened for business, we will conclude our lovely stay in Iran by blowing up and completely obliterating all of their electric generating plants, oil wells, and Karg Island. Karg Island is about the size of New York's JFK Airport and exports 90% of Iran's oil. Trump told the FT that he would, quote, prefer to take Iran's oil by seizing the island. Maybe we take Karg Island. Maybe we don't. We have a lot of options. It would also mean we had to be there for a while. Even for President Trump, a threat to possibly indefinitely occupy Middle Eastern territory is a remarkable statement, as a leader who has for 1 decade vowed to avoid endless wars. But the president dismissed his detractors. My favorite thing is to take the oil in Iran, but some stupid people back in the U.S. say, why are you doing that? But they're stupid people. Over the last week, the U.S. has demanded Iran dismantle its nuclear facilities and hand over its highly enriched uranium, cap its ballistic missile inventory and range, and give up its support for proxies, as Secretary of State Marco Rubio said today.
So they have to abandon all these weapon programs and all their nuclear ambitions. And if they do that, then Iran's future can be bright.
But today, the U.S. demands were rejected by Iran's foreign ministry spokesman.
The U.S. demands have been very excessive, unrealistic, and illogical.
What is said publicly is, of course, much different than what's being communicated to us privately.
Today, Leavitt said Iran was embracing diplomacy.
When the president says more reasonable, again, these folks are appearing more reasonable behind the scenes privately in these conversations than perhaps some of the previous leaders who are now no longer on planet Earth because they lied to the United States.
But Iran also accuses the U.S. of using diplomacy as cover. Twice during Trump's second term, the U.S. has attacked Iran during high-level diplomatic talks.
I would only say that we're doing extremely well in that negotiation. You never know with Iran because we negotiate with them and then we always have to blow them up.
The U.S. is amassing more forces, including thousands of Marines with sailors who can launch amphibious assaults. They could conduct raids into Iranian territory, but they could also help defend tankers passing through the strait. In Iran, today the White House said it had struck 11,000 targets out of what President Trump says are 16,000 targets. And Israel continued to target what it says are Tehran weapons production sites. Iran says among the targets have been 3 universities, as well as now hollowed-out high-rise apartments. At least one strike hit a busy street in downtown Tehran, and the city has faced power cuts. Israel is also expanding its invasion into southern Lebanon, expanding what Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this weekend called a security strip.
I have now instructed to further expand the existing security strip in order to finally thwart the threat of invasion and to keep the anti-tank missile fire away from our borders.
That expansion has come with a cost. Today, Israel buried 19-year-old Sergeant Liron Ben-Zion, an American-Israeli and the 6th Israeli soldier killed in Lebanon in the last month, when Hezbollah entered the war and has since fired at least 850 drones and missiles into Israel. The UN's peacekeeping mission in southern Lebanon said today 3 peacekeepers had been killed in less than 24 hours. And in southern Lebanon this weekend, an Israeli strike killed 3 journalists and multiple paramedics.
Support journalism you trust. Support PBS News. Donate now.
Chaos is deepening inside Israel as anger at Prime Minister Netanyahu grows, with many Israelis blaming him for pushing the country into a war that is now triggering parallel food and energy crises at home. Reports say Netanyahu has effectively locked residents of northern towns into a siege-like reality, keeping them under tight restrictions even as the war with Hezbollah grinds on just across the border. Hezbollah, for its part, has launched around 40 to 43 attacks in a single 24-hour period, hammering Israeli positions with rockets, drones, and guided missiles and leaving multiple soldiers dead or wounded. At the same time, Israelis now find themselves increasingly trapped between Hezbollah's fire and Iran's broader strategy, as Tehran targets energy and food-linked infrastructure in what analysts describe as a bid to fuel a deeper supply crisis and potential starvation fears. Food and energy prices in Israel have surged sharply, triggering widespread public anxiety as households struggle to cope with higher living costs in the middle of a regional war. There is growing unease as the Iran conflict grinds on and Tehran's regional proxies, including Hezbollah, intensify their involvement along Israel's northern front. Despite the uptick in Hezbollah attacks, reports say many Israelis living in vulnerable northern areas have not been allowed to fully evacuate, deepening frustration and fear. An Iranian outlet, Press TV, reported on March 30th that instability inside Israel is rising, highlighting protests, anger at the government, and mounting concern over the war's domestic fallout. Hezbollah has claimed dozens of attacks within a 24-hour period around this time, with some reports citing figures of over 30 strikes in a single day, using rockets, drones, and artillery against Israeli military sites. Israel, for its part, has confirmed that several soldiers have been killed and others wounded in recent Hezbollah operations, underscoring the escalating costs on the northern front. All of this has fed a sense of instability, unease, and rising anger toward the Israeli government, as many citizens worry that the combination of infrastructure attacks and rising prices could tip the country toward a deeper food crisis.
What would you tell a man who's been late to everything for 40 years, no matter how hard he tries to be on time?
I'd tell him his brain isn't broken. It's time blind, and no one ever explained what that means. We start working with it this Monday. I'd tell him his brain isn't broken. It's time blind, and no one ever explained what that means. We start working with it this Monday. And watch guys I used to tutor pass me by.
Iranian missiles have caused fresh havoc at a key Israeli industrial site as the war grinds into its fifth week, underscoring how critical infrastructure is increasingly in the crosshairs. Israeli pesticides maker Adama said debris from an Iranian missile strike had damaged crucial infrastructure at its Makdashim plant in southern Israel. The company reported that a warehouse holding finished products, along with production equipment and essential systems, had been hit in the incident. The damage at the pesticide facility was detailed in a March 30th report, which highlighted the growing impact of missile and shrapnel strikes on Israel's industrial base. Adama, which produces crop protection materials and is part of the Chinese-owned Syngenta Group, said no injuries were reported, though the full extent of the damage is still being assessed. The company, in a statement to the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange, said, quote, efforts are underway to resume normal operations in a gradual and safe manner as soon as possible. The company is assessing the impact on its operations and financial results, as well as the expected timeline for restoring the affected facilities to full operation, unquote. Iranian missile strikes on an Israeli pesticides factory came soon after Tehran hit the key port city of Haifa, signaling a broader campaign against critical economic infrastructure. Haifa's port is central to Israel's food security and, according to prior reporting, handled roughly 75% of the country's food imports in 2023, making any disruption there especially alarming. The city was targeted by Iran in what it described as its 33rd wave of missile and drone attacks on March 10th, underscoring how frequently this strategic hub has come under fire as the war has escalated.
America's about to go through terrible times, brothers and sisters. A time of unprecedented trouble. A time like no other, never will there be. It's going to be dark for them. No light for them. It says this day will be dark and hopeless, without a ray of joy. And if you associate yourself with them, then that'll be extended to you, brothers and sisters. So that's why you should invest in your vision, invest in where you're going, get out of here. Because that's what it says. It says we're getting out of here. That's what it tells you in the scripture. It tells you to come out of her, my people, so that you will not share in her sins, her consequence, so that you will not receive any of her plagues, her judgment, her destruction, for her sins are piled up to the heaven. I mean, not only in their own playground on the earth, in the European nations, it has reached all nations. They've killed, still, and destroyed everywhere. And it said, and God has remembered her crimes. All right, that's her. Means that you can't escape consequence. What's due to you, you will receive it. So give back to her as she has given. Pay her back double. She get the double amount. Get the double amount for what she has done. Pour her double portion. Pour her a double portion from her own cup. Meaning that this is coming from her hands. This is America's fault. This is what they've caused. So nobody can blame anybody else. This is what they have did. So give her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. Woo! It says, in her heart she boasts, I sit enthroned as queen. I am not a widow. I would never mourn. Therefore, in one day, which is 1 year, her plagues, her destruction, her consequence will overtake her. Death, mourning, famine, no food, no water, no oil, no gas, no heat, no nothing. Total economic collapse, along with China and India rolling through here and making them slaves and tormenting and torturing them. Then their mourning, which is their death, you see, which is the end of their lives, you see, in America be nuked and completely destroyed, never to be a nation again. So she will be consumed by fire, you see. For mighty is the Lord God who judges her, who remembered her crimes and gave her as much torment and grief as the glory and luxury she gave herself. So, my brothers and sisters, you shouldn't want anything to do with America. After explaining this to you, brothers and sisters, America is not going to recover from this, and things will never be the same for you, brothers and sisters, including the fact that they're still going to attack you. They're going to attack all blacks because they're going to be under pressure under all fields. Their oil, their religion, their ideology is be challenged. No food, you see. That means they're going to be trying to attack you and eat you, because when the food gets scarce, the first people they're going to put on the menu is you. Because in the Constitution, you're still 3/5 of a human, which classifies you as an animal. So by law, if there's no food, they can eat you, because you're not a human, you're an animal. So they plan on putting you on the dinner table, brothers and sisters. So don't have faith in these people. Don't be friends with these people, these devils. You see, massa. Don't do it. So if you can identify your enemies, then you are your enemy. You got to realize that your enemy. They're not here. They're not your friends. They hate you. They change you 100%, which is the evidence that they hate you 100%. Because if you love something, then you keep it the same. But they hate you because they change you 100%. That's the evidence. And the way that they treat you. And not only that, the only time they only do things for the benefit of themselves. So they pretend to be your friend and all these things and give you all these benefits and all that. Just for in the long run, for them to benefit off you, which right now they're planning on putting you on the dinner table along with your attack. So brothers and sisters, stay tuned. We'll be back with more. Thank you for listening to me. Assalamu alaikum.